Hello, guys and girls. This is Wager Detective here, July 7th, 2026. Be sure to follow Wager Detective on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Set alerts on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. Leave comments on all those platforms. Wager Detective loves all his fans. We're going to get into this cap right now. Cubs and the Orioles. Let's get into it. The Cubs are coming in at a minus 112. Orioles coming back at minus 104. The over-under is set at 9.5. Plus 100 to the over, minus 122 to the under, and those odds are per FanDuel. Now, if we look at it, it looks like there could be some rain in the forecast here, 45% precipitation. We're hoping that this one holds on. I capped the game, so let's get into this. The Cubs, they are 7-2 in the last 9 versus the Orioles, plus 26 run differential, 2 over and 7 under in those games. The Cubs are 9-2 all-time at the Orioles, 5 over, 6 under. The Cubs are scoring 6 runs per game average in 11 all-time games at Baltimore. So pretty good start for the Cubs in this cap. 7-2 in the last 9 overall versus the Orioles, plus 26 run differential, 2 over, 7 under. And the Cubs 9-2 all-time at Baltimore, 5 over, 6 under, and the Cubs averaging 6 runs per game against the Orioles in Baltimore. If we look at the Cubs' road night games this year, they are 18-14, plus 27 run differential. They're scoring 5.66 runs a game to 4.47 for their opponents. In their 32 road night games this year, the Cubs have scored 5+ 19 times. They've scored 2 or less 10 times. In their 32 road night games this year, the Cubs' opponents have scored 5+ 15 times and 2 or less 10 times. The Cubs in their last 9 games, they are 6-3, plus 9 run differential. They're scoring 6.22 runs a game. Their opponents are scoring 5.22. In their last 9 games, the Cubs are scoring have scored 5+ runs 4 times, and their opponents have scored 5+ 3 times. If we look at the Cubs in interleague play, they are 9-14 in interleague play, 10 over and 13 under. They are plus 12 run differential in their 23 interleague games, even though they are 9-14. In their 23 interleague games, the Cubs are scoring 4.70 runs a game to 4.17 for their opponents. In their 23 interleague games, the Cubs have scored 5+ 12 times and have been shut out 3 times. And their opponents in their 23 interleague games have scored 5+ 9 times and have scored 2 or less 9 times. The situational split for the Cubs in this game is going to be home to the road with 1 day off. Going back before the All-Star break and going back to last year and including this year, they are 2-5 in that split, minus 8 run differential. Okay, so they're going from their home to the road with a day off in between. They're 2-5 in their last 7 in that split before the All-Star break. So that's how I kind of isolate that for my viewers. So again, 2-5 in that split, minus 8, 2 over, 5 under. They've scored 5+ 2 times, and their opponents have scored 5+ 3 times in that split. And food for thought on that one. On the mound is going to be Matthew Boyd. He's 5-2 on the year, or the Cubs are 5-2 when he starts this year. Plus 8 run differential in those games for the Cubs, 4 over, 3 under. On the year, Boyd does have a 1.40 whip, 5.08. Did I get this right? Yeah, he has a 1.40 whip, 5.08 ERA, and he's giving up 1.07 home runs per 9. And in his last 2 outings, the Cubs have won. He has 9.2. He was injured for a while, and then he just came back in his last 2 starts, which the Cubs have won. 9 2/3 innings pitched, 12 hits, 4 walks, 2 home runs, and 3 earned runs. Comes out to a 2.81 ERA. The whip ballooned up to 1.66, and he's giving up 1.87 home runs per 9. On the road this year, he does have 8 2/3 innings pitched, 12 hits, 5 earned runs, 6 walks for a 5.23 ERA and a 2.09 whip. Now, against the Orioles, in his last 5 starts versus the Orioles, his teams are 3-2, plus 3 run differential, 3 over, 2 under in those games, where he has a 3.07 ERA and a 1.16 whip. Okay, so something to think about there in that regard. Now, if we look at the Orioles this year, they're playing pretty good, right? They're 42 and 49, 7 games below 500. We know the Cubs are 10 games above 500. And you look at both these lineups, both these teams have guys in the lineup that could knock the ball out of the park, that are playing good, consistent guys all along both these lineups over their career. Superstars. This is a superstar game right here with a lot of big names in it. If we look at what Baltimore has done this year, they are 10 and 16 against left-handed pitching, which they will be seeing in Matthew Boyd. They're 4 and 6 in their last 10. They're 24 and 23 at home, 6 and 14 in one-run games, and they're 12 and 15 in interleague play. In home night games this year, the Orioles are 12 and 14, plus 9 run differential, 11 over, 15 under. In their 26 home night games this year, they scored 5 plus 13 times. So in half of their road night, in half of their home night games this year, they've scored 5 plus in those games. Their opponents have scored 5 plus 11 times in those 26 home night games against the Orioles. The Orioles are, in their last 9, they are 4 and 5, minus 3 run differential, 4 over, 5 under in those games. In their last 9 games, the Orioles have only scored 5 plus 2 times, and their opponents have scored 5 plus 4 times. So if we look at that, it's a big discrepancy there. When we look at what the Cubs have done in their last 9, they're scoring 6.22 runs a game, but they are giving up 5.22 runs a game. So I think this could be a game where the Orioles do get to that 5 plus runs part, a few off of Boyd, and then once the bullpen comes in, I just see runs being scored in this game. Now, if we look at interleague play for the Orioles, they are 12 and 15. They were swept at Pittsburgh. And 12 and 15 in interleague play, and their plus 2 run differential there. They've scored 5 plus 11 times out of those 27 interleague games, and their opponents have scored 5 plus 12 times. They're scoring the Orioles are scoring 4.66 runs per game in interleague action. Their opponents are scoring, their National League counterparts are scoring 4.59 runs per game. Now for the Orioles here, this is going to be road to home with 1 day off. In that split this year, they are 3 and 1, plus 9 run differential, 2 over, 2 under. In that split, the Orioles are scoring 5.75 runs per game in that split. Their opponents are scoring 3.5. So when the Orioles go from the road to home with a day off in between, 3 and 1 this year, they are plus 9 run differential. On the mound is going to be Shane Baz. In his last 5 starts, the Orioles are only 1 and 4, minus 11 in the run differential department, 3 over and 2 under that 9.5. In his last 5 starts, 29 and 2/3, 30 hits, 13 earned runs, 10 walks, and 2 home runs. Comes out to a 3.95 ERA, a 1.35 WHIP, and he's only giving up 0.61 home runs per 9. So you can't blame Shane Baz necessarily. With an ERA like that in his last 5 starts, you would think that they'd be scoring for him. Apparently, they haven't been. So I think they could get on track tonight, even though it is Matthew Boyd. Matthew Boyd, since coming back, is giving up the last 2 starts, even though they're winning. Like we said, in his last 2 outings, 9 and 2/3. He is pitching pretty good. 9 and 2/3. Has a 2.81 ERA, but the WHIP is high, 1.66, and he is giving up 1.87 home runs per 9 in his last 2 starts. And if you look on the road this year, like we said, he's got 8 and 2/3 innings pitched, and he's got a 5.23 ERA and a 2.09 WHIP. So basically, I think if the Orioles take advantage of runners in scoring position and guys that can steal bases, they can put pressure on this Cubs team to make mistakes and maybe not be as comfortable as they are. If we look at Shane Baz in home games this year, he is the Orioles are 4 and 3. He's got 39 and 2/3 innings pitched in 7 home starts this year with a 4.09 ERA, 1.46 WHIP, and only giving up 0.68 home runs per 9. So he's not giving up the long ball. That is the Shane Baz specialty, and I think when the Cubs go away from that small park at Wrigley Field to the road, I'd look into those dimensions and see what kind of park they got. I mean, Baz isn't giving up home runs. His whip is nearing, danger zone. And Shane Baz is going to be on 7 days rest here. And I didn't go into any research, but I looked for what he did on 6+ days rest this year. And on 7 days rest this year, I think he's going to be pretty good, right? The Orioles are 2-0 when he's on 6 days rest this year. There was only 2 games that he has been. So it seems like when he gets that extra rest, he's good. So on 6 days rest this year, when Baz starts, the Orioles are 2-0, +4 run differential. Both games went under. And in those 2 games, 12 2/3 innings pitched, has a 2.14 ERA and a 1.03 whip. If we look at what he did against the Cubs, he's only seen them once last year at Chicago. He lost 4-6. That game he was on 5 days rest. 2 1/3 innings pitched, and the Cubs mauled him for 5 runs, 6 hits. He also posted 3 walks in that game. He only lasted, again, 2 1/3 last year at Chicago. If I'm looking at this game, I do believe, and listen, I don't believe Boyd might not even be in there for long. In his last 2 outings, what did we say here? In his last 2 outings, both games he pitched only 76 pitches. So if the Orioles decide to run up the pitch count and they find a way to get on base, they could cause problems for the Cubs early in this game. If you look at the history, like we said, it's all leaning towards the Cubs. The line doesn't look really, to me, doesn't look as though it's indicative of these guys getting walked over in this game. I don't know if I see it. I don't know if I see the Orioles getting walked over on this game. And even though the Cubs have a great history at the Orioles, where they're 9-2 all time, usually Wager Detective will jump right on that and say, you know what, I'm gonna use that to my advantage. -112 to -104, the Orioles are an underdog at home. They're coming off of a loss at Cincinnati where they took 2 out of 3 there. I think this could be a time where Baltimore tries to get right before the All-Star break. The Cubs are still chasing the Brewers. We get it. The Brewers won again today. They beat the Cardinals. So the Cubs could fall another game back. Do they get right here, or does Boyd pitch a gem? I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think this is going to be a good game, man. And I think if we're looking at it, from the capping standpoint, again, the Cubs 7-2 last 9 versus the Orioles. They're 9-2 all time at the Orioles. They're scoring 6 runs per game in 11 games at the Orioles. They're +26 run differential in the last 9 games overall versus the Orioles. You would look at that and say, listen, this might be a spot where the Cubs find a way to win this game. They swept the Orioles the year before last in 2024 at the Orioles, and I had 2 of those games. I won bets on 2 of those games back in 2024 when they went to Baltimore and swept them. So I just look at this game, and I think the thing that stands out is the home to road with 1 day off, where the Cubs are 2-5 -8, and then if you look at this split for the Orioles from road to home with 1 day off, they're 3-1 +9. And if you look at last 9 overall, I know the Orioles are 4-5 -3, and the Cubs are 6-3 +9. They've been scoring some runs, but I think when you have that day off, there's a little bit of a lull there, man. I've seen it happen so many times. When you have that day off and you're going from home to the road, you lose a little bit of a focus, right? You lose focus. You had that day off, now you're traveling to Baltimore. I like the team that's coming home off of a loss, a little bit more focused. I'm sure if I'm the manager, I'm having bulletin board material for the fact that this team has owned us in the past. Let's try to change that here. If I'm a coach, I'm looking at all these things, and I got to believe this might be a spot. Even with Shane Baz, like I said, he's on 7 days rest here. I do believe he's going to pitch good. I know I said I like the over. But I think if runs are going to be scored to get to that 9.5, something just tells me that it's going to be the Orioles that are doing it. So Wager Detective is going to step out on a limb here and call the Baltimore Orioles minus 104 in this game as his main selection. And I would even go as far to say, because we know the Orioles are only 6-14 in one-run games, so if they're going to win, it's probably going to be by that run line, right? And in the 3 games that they've won from road to home this year, where they're 3-1, they've covered that run line in those 3 games, and those games came against Boston, Detroit, and Washington, who I think are just on the same level as all those lineups, except maybe Boston, but they're almost there with a couple of their players as good as the Cubs. So, Wager Detective calling the Baltimore Orioles to win this game, minus 104. Today is July 7th, 2026. Wager Detective report. Follow Wager Detective on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Set alerts on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. And that's the report. If I'm going to look at an over-under, they got it shaded to minus 122 on the under. And I think Baz is going to put on a performance. I think he remembers that beating he took last year at Chicago. Now he's at home. He's in a more comfortable environment. And like we said, when Boyd goes against the Orioles, he is 3-2. Again, the results are 3-2. The final score, they're 3 wins and 2 losses. But he has lost his last 2 versus the Orioles. And I think that trend kind of continues based off of what he's done on the road this year. His last 2 games looked pretty good with a 2.81 ERA. But I do believe there's going to be a little bit of regression, and he's going to be on a short leash. Both last 2 outings since he's come back, Boyd has only pitched 76 pitches in both those, identical number of pitch count in both those starts. So I think Baltimore can take advantage of long pitch counts, try to work him early, and I think Baltimore gets to him, and I think they win this game by more than 1 run. So we're going to take the Orioles, like we said, minus 104. Today's July 7th, 2026. Thank you for tuning in. Share this with your friends. Let people know about Wager Detective, and more than anything else, Wager Detective loves all his fans. I'll talk to you soon.